there, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Chris McCarthy and I work for an independent gaming studio in Leamington called Third Kind Games. And I'm really delighted to have my colleagues for this session on Careers Unlocked, where we're trying to unravel the technical aspects involved in the careers in gaming, which they're going to explain because they're the experts. And the structure is going to be pretty straightforward. Everyone's going to introduce themselves so we know who we're dealing with. And then they're going to give you some insight, second round of questions around what the jobs entail. So on my left, just 1 point on that, and then at the halfway point, we're going to do a quick swap with panel 2, and with a Q&A session in between. Forgot that bit, thank you. Vicky.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Vicky, I'm the lead community manager at Secret Mode. I was previously a community ambassador at Raw Fury. I've been in the games industry for around 2 years, and previous to this I was mostly doing social media work and retail.
Hi, I'm Kieran Townley. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an associate lead programmer at Soul Assembly. Before that, I was working at Quali. I'm also a grads in games industry advocate and a limit break mentor.
Hi, I'm Grace Emery. I'm a principal audio designer at Maverick Games. I've been in the games industry for a few years. I was in the music industry before that. I have worked at Rebellion, Cloud Imperium, worked on a few FPS games, some VR, and I've done a bit of technical sound designer work as well, if anyone's interested in that.
Hello, I'm assuming it's me next since there's no one else. My name's Alex. I've been making video games professionally since the mid-90s and for a lot longer than that, because I'm a nerd from the 80s. They were all rubbish though before I got paid for it. So what have I been? And so I've worked at lots of different companies. I more or less by fluke, I got into the industry and I more or less by fluke ended up doing what I do now. So I run an indie micro studio and do a lot of freelancing to pay the bills and make middleware for other people. And mostly I port people's games from PC to console mostly. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Opening up on my left again, Vicky, community manager is one of those, probably a new role in the last couple of years that's emerged. So we'd love to know what does the job actually entail, please? Any advice for people looking into that industry as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really know what community management is or what a community manager does. Like you said, it is quite a new role. Community management is basically the bridge between dev and community. So if the devs need to communicate with the players, it goes through us, and vice versa. If the players have got a problem or something really cool that they want to share with the devs or an idea for the devs to improve the game, we're kind of the go-between there. We also get to do really fun stuff as well, like fan art contests and live streams and make silly TikToks about the games. So it's quite a varied role. It's a lot of player engagement, and it is a new role, but it's very valuable. The players will be the people that play and buy your game, so you want them to know about it, and you want to know how they feel about it.
And what do you think is the most creative thing you've come up with?
It actually was in my previous job when I worked for Raw Fury. We did a whole thing in December called Rawcember. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but they give away loads of games, they do loads of giveaways, they run loads of events throughout the whole of December and give away loads of keys. I specifically worked on the game Kingdom 2 Crowns. So for a whole week in December, we kind of did a kingdom takeover, and we did sort of puzzles that players could get involved in. They could solve a different piece of the puzzle every day and be put into a prize draw. So I was really instrumental in designing those puzzles. I have ADHD, so I was like, you want me to design stuff and do fun things? I just ran with it, and I created 7 different puzzles. And just seeing the players engage with that and come back every day and actually give feedback on it and saying how fun it was, I was like, I did that, and I could engage with them as well, because yeah, it was kind of a two-way interaction. That was really great fun to do.
You clearly enjoy your job. It's great to see.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you mentioned TikTok, social media. So is this role just social media management? What are the elements?
So there's a difference between that. But I think with community management, there is a little bit of crossover with social media, but it will depend on the role. It'll depend on the studio. I've tried to get a community management job for ages, so I've applied for loads, and each job description is different. Some of them will want you to fully manage their socials. Some of them will just want you to do live streams. Some of them will just want you to live on Reddit and in Discord, and that's fine. And some of them will want you to do a bit of everything. So it's a really varied skill set. Sometimes you will just need to be in those core community places like Reddit, Steam forums, Discord, listening to the players, engaging with the players, and gathering that sentiment and feeding it back to developers and shareholders. That's the most important thing, that they know that their games are selling and people are enjoying them. But it's just very, very varied. Sometimes you will also need to make TikToks because you want to show off the fun elements of the game. You want to connect with the players on their level. You want to understand and resonate with them and say, hey, we know what your experience of the game is. And if we find this funny, you're probably going to find it funny as well because you've played the game, so you know what this does. But live streams as well, like any sort of video content where you're informing the players as well. So you don't just want to engage with them and entertain them. You do want to inform them as well. So making videos about the game, key features, USPs, why people should buy it, why it's fun to play, that sort of stuff's great as well.
Oh, Vicky, thank you very, very much indeed.
No worries.
Kieran, a lead programmer and associate lead. There's I've just got you a promotion.
Thanks. I'll take it.
Thank you. You can take it for your drink afterwards. Lead is a common title in gaming, different job families, lead designer, lead artist, etc. But if you can give us some insight, typically, what the role entails, advice, very similar, that would be great, and outline what leadership means in gaming.
Yeah, sure. So I think the difference between a lead role and a standard kind of game programmer role in the games industry is you have to have the ability to manage people and potentially manage projects as well. So throughout lots of my career, I've been fortunate enough to manage people. So when I was at Quali, even doing a mid-level role, I was lucky enough to manage a couple of people there. And kind of lots of my role nowadays, you have to plan things. So we'll get like a project in, and then we'll have to like split up the tasks, almost like a little bit of production as well, and then make sure everyone knows what they're doing. So I need to come in each day and make sure that this person's going to work on this thing, this person's going to work on that thing, and then I can carry on with my program myself. And yeah.
And in terms of programming in general, then, how do you become a lead? What's the sort of journey to give that opportunity in management that you've had?
Yeah, so while I was at university, I was quite lucky that I managed to get a placement working for a company called DTT in Amsterdam. And while I was on placement, I was given the opportunity, quite crazily, to help manage some projects. And from that point onwards, I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. And I was managing these projects, looking after them and stuff like that. And then after I finished uni, I then managed to get my job at Quali, which made hyper-casual mobile games. And then I kind of showed that I was capable of programming and doing all of that, and I showed my organisation skills and my kind of general people skills. And then when opportunities arose at Quali, as people shifted around departments and so on, I found myself in a position where I was given the opportunity to kind of lead the programming on some of our projects that got downloaded hundreds of millions of times, which is quite mental. And then have a couple of people that reported directly into me. So then when I left Quali and went to Soul Assembly, I again started not in a lead position, as an experienced programmer. And I just made it clear to everyone I worked with and my line managers that as I progressed and as time went on, I wanted to progress into more of a management position. So as opportunities arose and things happened, I found myself in a position where I was able to lead these projects. So now I lead our future tech team. So it's only a small team, a few of us, looking after kind of like research and development type thing. So working with new technology. So we recently worked with Apple to create a launch title for the Apple Vision Pro, which was quite cool. And yeah, that's kind of how I've ended up.
Great. No, thank you. And in terms of do you do much mentoring in your role? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, so both at Quali, I had a couple of reports. So it's helping people progress in their roles, progressing from junior to mid-level. And it's mentoring people has always been something that I've enjoyed, and helping people to either get into the industry or progress in their roles. So it's something I do outside of work as well, with Limit Break. Limit Break's a fantastic organisation that helps underrepresented and marginalised people get into the games industry and kind of progress in their careers. So I do a bit there and also a bit with the University of Gloucestershire as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kieran. Thank you. Thank you very much. Grace.
Hi.
Now, unique job title as well, audio design. It's something that we don't actually hear, but it's very, very important in the game experience, etc. But you know, how on earth did you find yourself in that? And you know, what sort of tips and advice? How does a day look like for you?
Both really good questions. What would a day look like for me? So audio in games is comprised of a couple of areas: sound design and implementing the sound design. It's the thing that differentiated it from film, and it's the thing that really excited me about games, was that you not only get to create the sounds, but you have to spend a lot of time thinking about the technical way that it's actually going to play back. So a really simple example is, say you're playing Fortnite, which I think there might be a few fans of, and you've got another player, maybe one of your friends, firing a gun, you know, maybe a kilometre away, a few hundred metres away. The game engine has to calculate the distance of that player from you and then equate the level of the weapon fire sound to that distance. So it's a really simple system, but there's 1,000,001 ways that we need to think about how distance and speed and lots of different parameters within a game affect how the sound's going to play back. And the other thing that's super cool is with film, you've got complete and utter control over how a sound is going to play back, because it's just like one long section, and it's going to be the same every time. With a game, you have no idea what a player's going to do. It could be like 1,000,001 different possibilities happening. So you have to create the best possible potential combination of sounds that can play to make sure that the player understands can hear the most important sounds for them at that times, and then prioritize those. So there is a lot of technical stuff to the role as well. How I got into what I'm doing is a bit, I felt like it was quite unique, but actually seeing a couple of these panels today, I would say there's more people that didn't study what they're doing professionally and actually found like a really awesome route into games, which is super cool about the whole industry. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to uni. I actually studied classics, which is completely random and for me was not helpful. I'd played quite a few instruments growing up, and I had always had a really big passion for music, but I just didn't really understand what sort of audio production or sound design was. I learned about audio production first, started writing music, ended up starting a record label, ended up realizing I wasn't going to make much money off a record label, and then was incredibly fortunate, but at the same time had created a situation where I could end up feeling lucky, where I'd been talking so much about my passion, which was like music at the time, and I worked in marketing, and my boss had an opportunity to get in a creative project, and reached out to me and said, "Can you do the sound on this? We don't have experience with this." And that was an absolute, pun intended, game changer for me. It enabled me to get something on my portfolio. It gave me confidence as well, because someone had paid me to do sound, and I just couldn't believe it. So that was a really big turning point. And then after that, it was about 3 years of me finding every single bit of training, certification, qualification that I could to get myself showing that I was like invested in training and like creating additional bits of portfolio pieces and stuff, and then just applying absolutely everywhere. And then Rebellion Games took a chance on me, and yeah.
What's
your favourite noise? What's the best bit of audio? And have you brought it with you?
Favourite noise? No. What's my favourite noise? That's such a great question. I I mean, it could. Do you know? Right, this is really nerdy. I really love Foley. The reason that I love Foley is because when you are able to make it's absolutely minute amounts of sound that change and tiny textures, but you can completely change the way a character feels just by how they sound. So say they're walking through a room and they're feeling a bit sad, and you make that cloth movement really slow and their footsteps really soft and subtle. Yeah, I don't actually know if it's like my favorite thing to make, but I think it's so powerful, like, and you can really get express a lot about a character and get a lot of feeling across in something so small and detailed.
Have you ever done that when someone's walked through your studio, just as a joke in the background?
Just like
I think
we need
to start doing this.
Yeah.
Sorry, great. No, thank you, Greg. That's brilliant insight. And then moving on, Alex, we've talked to a lot of students that come up to us today talking about programming, how to get into programming, where to start, what to do, Unreal, all the classic debates. And I know you can answer all of these questions in 5 minutes, but
I can do it even faster than that.
Tell us all about...
With one number, 42 is the correct answer to all questions.
Spot on, thank you.
So we're done. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, any advice on that is great, but also tell us what you do as well that day as a freelancer. What does that mean?
So the thing with freelance is you really... Your proportional, like your statistical likelihood of getting work is directly proportional to how many people you know, right? So, and how many people you know who are in a position where they might be able to recommend you or tell you about work or whatever. So freelance, it's pretty hard to get entry-level roles as a freelancer in any industry, really, but especially in video games. I'm just really fortunate that I've been making video games since the mid-90s. I know a lot of people who are either really high up at companies or run companies. I also have, because I've been working on games for so long, my experience predates things like Unity and Unreal, where we had to write our own game engines, and so I've done that. And so whenever I go to fix technical problems, I'm not really... I sort of have a skill set that's not that common, do you know what I mean, these days? And console porting is a thing. So taking PC games and getting them to work on consoles, it's not that complicated, he said, putting his job in jeopardy. But while it's not complicated, there is a lot of super domain-specific knowledge involved for everything from, the rules about what PlayStation games have to do when they test them, and all that sort of stuff, down to what is the best way to implement that without your game exploding in your face every 5 minutes, right? So that's sort of how I ended up doing freelance, because it's easier for the people I know to ring me up than it is for them to go and find someone with my skill set and hire that person. And so I just sort of flit around like a butterfly. Historically, at the moment, I'm actually working 3 days a week for a sort of medium-sized indie called Bithell Games. I can't really talk about what I'm working on, but it is awesome. And again, I'm mostly doing console stuff for them, but not exclusively. And like I say, I've done basically all of the different bits of programming. The only thing that I don't have a huge amount of experience with is renderers, like shaders and stuff. I've written renderers, but I've never... Anyway, it's really boring and I'm waffling. But the point is I'm really lucky in that I've been in the right place at the right time many, many, many times. Not just because, and for a start off, my dad was a doctor, I'm white, I'm straight. All of those things make it really easy for me, and I'm very much aware that I've been fortunate, and I do, I used to do Limit Break, haven't done it this year because I'm too busy, but, I do what I can to try and help other people get a leg up, because you've got to give back, right?
Definitely. No, thank you, Alex. And in terms of... something advice, because we want to make sure we have a good Q&A session. What advice would you give people in community management? What's a top tip?
Top tips for community management. I say just do it anyway. Whether you're being paid or not, ingrain yourself within the communities that you're passionate about. If you've got a game that you really love, go into those community spaces, get into Discord, get into Reddit, get into Steam. Start helping other players, start imparting your knowledge, start becoming useful, getting yourself noticed, and start getting to know other community managers as well. Just make sure that they know you and see that you are useful in that community. And when a job comes up, you'll be top of mind, hopefully.
Brilliant, thank you. And Kieran, the same.
Yeah, so I think follow what you're passionate about. It's far easier to get good at something if you're really passionate about it. And if you're not passionate about programming games or making games, then you're in the wrong industry. You need to really be passionate about what you want to do. And when you're applying and looking at places, you need to express that passion and show why you want to do it. Because it's a difficult industry to get into. But if you're really passionate about what you want to do, then you can certainly do it.
Thank you.
Any
Audio.
just generally advice for getting into audio?
Yes, please.
Really good question. I think anything that you can do to create some form of portfolio and finding free ways of doing that. It could be finding a middleware course such as Wise and doing some training on that, and then creating a video that demonstrates how you actually implemented some sounds, for example, and maybe did it in a really unique way that you thought of. And I think you don't have to do anything that's like completely innovative, but what is really important is that you show your thinking and your approach, and that it's not something that you were just taught in a course, basically, just something that kind of shows that you've done a bit of work in your own time, you've got that passion, and you think a little bit, for yourself, because you've done enough work learning. That's probably my advice.
Thank you, Grace. And Alex, there's a...
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, what I sort of briefly alluded to, so I more or less got into video game programming by accident, although I did do a degree in programming. My dad wanted to be a doctor, and everybody in my family assumed I was going to be one, so I didn't want to be one. The longest I did work experience at my dad's hospital, and it was horrendous. I realised that doctors can't fix everything, and I don't think I could have coped with that as a reality, being one. So, disappointed my whole family, went to university and studied artificial intelligence and computing. And then I did 3 years of that, and I was loving it. And I got to the end of it, I was like, what am I even going to do? I'm going to end up programming Microsoft Word for the rest of my life or something. And my tutor was like, oh, I know a guy who works at this gaming company in Sheffield who've been gone for decades now, so I won't even mention the name. I went for an interview there, and I was like, this is a thing I could actually do. So I just literally went around going for interviews at every game company until somebody offered me a job. But I mean, again, I had, because I'd been making video games in my spare time when I was a kid and all that sort of stuff, I knew I was able to talk about that at interview and say, the most important thing really about programming is to do it. It's not a thing you can learn from. I mean, you can learn it from a book, but you won't get good at it by having learnt it from a book. You have to actually program stuff. And write as many games as you can, and they'll start terrible and they'll get better. Download Unity, go to it. That's the best thing to do for programming, really.
Other game engines are available?
Yeah, I mean, Unreal's fine, but you need a machine that's about 10 times faster and more expensive than you do for a machine that does Unity. So, well, I mean, I would say so.
No, but that's good advice, because no one said that. That's
no,
really
I mean, I
useful to know
literally upgraded my
as a
PC
parent.
to a $3,500
Yeah.
PC just so that I could do Unreal stuff, which is ridiculous.
Thank you.
Nobody should be doing that.
That's really good insight.
That is my official opinion.
No, thank you. So bear with us. Now, everyone, Q&A session. If you've got questions around CVs, applications, assessments, we come to our stands afterwards. We'll really happily help with that. Because this is a technical and a bit more in-depth, we'd like other questions that you'd like to answer. So I'm going to throw the cube around and test your catching skills and take it from there. Is that okay? Hold on.
These should be quite easy, thank you. This one's for Vicky. What's the average age of your customer?
It depends on the game.
Oh, okay.
I would say that. It really does depend on the game. If you're talking about, so for Secret Mode, for A Little to the Left or Loddlenaut, we've got quite a young customer base. But for our upcoming game, Still Wakes the Deep, it's going to be a lot older. So
Who do you prefer liaising with?
I really
do you
don't
learn a lot
mind.
from kids?
To be honest, we don't hear a lot from children. It's mostly, their parents who play it with them. So, for example, when I worked at Raw Fury, a lot of adults would play Kingdom with their children. So it was really nice to hear that they could have that experience with their child, because it was any age could play that game. So it was really nice that a lot of people would play it with their nieces, nephews, or kids. So it usually is the adults that we're interacting with. It's very rare that it is the children. But in terms of audience base for the games, it does vary. So we have to tailor our messaging and tailor our output to that audience.
Thank you. May I ask one more question?
Go on.
This is for Grace. Where do you get your weapon sounds from?
That's the best question of the day, thanks.
Are there any travel opportunities?
It's actually incredibly rare to organise a weapons recording session in the UK. I was very fortunate working at Rebellion on Sniper Elite and being part of a weapons recording session. The reason being that in the UK you've got to find an armourer, so someone who's got legal ability to own a weapon, then you've got to find someone who's got the licence to fire the weapon, and then you've got to find someone who's got land which is licensed for you to fire on, and also that land is available at the time that you need it for. And all of that, of course, costs a ton of money. So, yeah, the short answer is I got them from a recording session when I worked on a FPS game, which was phenomenal. There are tons and tons of sample libraries available now. So if you obviously don't have access to that, then it's totally possible for you to go on a sound effect library website and download some sample packs. There's a couple of free sites as well that you can go on, and you can just grab some as placeholders as well.
Might use it to get my kids to do their homework.
Any other questions? Right, there's last two, and then we got. Oh, sorry, I'm embarrassed. I'm terrible. Thank you for not taking the mickey, everyone.
So this is kind of a broader question of what's your favourite game to play / which one was your favourite to work on?
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh.
So one time, gotta be quick.
Favourite to play is any of the Fallout games. Just really like those. Favourite to work on, I think just because I was on it for so long and I was a player before I worked on it, it would be Kingdom 2 Crowns. I hope I don't get fired.
I think my favourite games to play, I used to love playing Dirt 3 when I was younger. That was amazing. And to work on, I absolutely loved the game we made recently with Apple, which is this little puzzle game where you throw blocks into a tower. It's called Soulspire, and it's amazing. So that's probably my favourite to work on.
Favourite game is a bit random. Infamous Second Son. And then my favourite game to work on is Iron Man VR, apart from obviously the game that I'm working on currently, which we can't talk about. But Iron Man VR was like super dope to work on.
I've got too many favourite games, but probably Zelda and Mario. Probably Wind Waker is my favourite game of all time. And I don't know, games I've worked on, I don't know, I get sort of PTSD about working on games. I will certainly, and that sounds ridiculous, but back in the day when I used to, so in the bad old days of the industry, which is only about a decade ago and may even still be going on, I once worked 5 weeks worth of overtime hours in a 6-week period. So I worked 11 weeks worth of working hours in a 6-week period once. And that game, I still can't play it because just the boot up noise makes my brain go into panic mode. So yeah, most games that I've worked on, I'm sort of ambivalent to at best, even if they were really good, I find it hard to I won a BAFTA for one that I worked on a couple of years ago called Rollerdrome. I'm kind of proud of that, although I didn't really do any of the gameplay. I did all the boring stuff, like if you unplug your controller by accident and it says, please plug your controller back in, that was me. So,
Sorry, just really quickly, it's actually something people don't talk about, is the fact that something to be aware of is once you start working on games, you aren't necessarily going to enjoy playing the game afterwards, which is the only con, yeah.